Slade Wilson has one messed up family, and it's about to get even screwier. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues, and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. This is the start of a Deathstroke storyline that came out about 2 years ago, which ultimately gets referred to as God Killer. We're going to start here and go through a rebirth, and if you guys still like him after all of that, we'll do older stories. Slade Wilson is Deathstroke, the Terminator, the world's greatest mercenary. With the line of work that Slade does, it requires him to travel quite often, and it allows him to make friends that he wouldn't normally make at home. Like Tiggs, for instance. He's been the middleman for these operations for about a year and a half, and even though Putin himself asked for Slade to return, he never did, because this next kill will make it worth it upsetting him. Slade heads over to Russia to meet with his contact, Angelica, and it doesn't take long to kill Pusim's men, and all that's left now is Pusim himself. Upon killing everyone though, Angelica finds a phone, which apparently transmits a frequency only Slade can hear, or so says the big gray guy. Slade looks at Pusim and tells him, "Time has not been kind to you." And he just tells him, "Shh and listen. The sound of your precious mind being broken into." Slade's eyes widen as he can't move any part of his body. Angelica tries to call out to him, but before she can, Pusim stands up and punches through Angelica's face. Pusim tells Slade to talk, and even though he struggles not to, Slade says a series of numbers and letters. As blood begins to drip down his face, Slade tells him, "I will kill you." But using his own swords, Pusim begins to cut and carve into Slade. Just as the last stab comes down, Slade grabs the blade and pushes it back, causing the hilt to go into Pusim's mouth and out the back of his head. Slade stands back up, knowing that he needs to get out of there before backup arrives, and then he hears the soldiers moving in as he's bleeding everywhere. Helicopters fire into the building just as Slade escapes, and as he hits the ground, the soldiers move in. An explosion goes off, and through the smoke, Slade rushes in, stabbing a soldier in the face, thinking how armor only offers full body protection, making the face the most efficient target. Heads begin to fly as Slade makes his way through the army, but above the helicopter fires 2 missiles. The missiles level the area, and through the smoke, Slade shuffles out and up to the roof. Pusim watches, telling him, "Run, Deathstroke, run." A short while later, Slade makes his way through the alleyways looking for him, and he finally walks into a building. He looks at the old man and he says, "I Ching, right?" And the man tells him, "Sit." With no strength left, Slade falls to the ground, and the man tells him, "Or lie down." 16 days pass and Slade begins to open his eyes, and I Ching tells him that he has exceeded his expectations in regard to his healing. However, their business is not over. It is now him who is indebted, and he will collect when the time comes. I Ching begins to leave, and Slade calls out to him, stating, "Something's off. Way the hell off." Slade gets up looking much younger, and now he has both eyes. With I Ching gone, Slade begins to wander around the Ukraine fortress of Deathstroke. He then hears a voice call out to him, and then he sees a man sitting on a throne. Slade swings his sword, demanding to know who he is, but the sword passes through him, and the voice tells him that he is just a hologram. The man with the mask tells him that he's sorry, but Odysseus' image startled him, and he figured he would have to see with his 2 eyes his next target. The man says that he may call him Red Fury, and currently, Slade, you're a dead man, and as you can see, your little hideout has been compromised. Red Fury goes on to state that he recently hired him, but he won't have any memory of it. They agreed on a mission so sensitive that even he could have no knowledge of it, because of which he personally administered a drug which would cause him to gain temporary amnesia. But in case he would like to know about it, he can drink this fancy truth serum, and it will bring those memories back. Slade asks why Odysseus tried to kill him, and Red Fury tells him, "Well, those numbers that you spat out to Pusim, I am one of those numbers, along with others, and now we have to stop Odysseus." But before Slade can ask any more questions, more of Odysseus' soldiers appear. Slade quickly suits up and starts to slaughter their men, and when he runs out of ammo, he pulls out his swords to add a personal touch. After cutting down the rest of them, Slade hears a moan for help. He pulls off the man's mask and he tells him, "I got some questions," and he begins to pour that truth serum into that man's mouth. He then asks the man, "What does Odysseus want with me?" And the man tells him, "I'm not sure, but you're needed for an important reason, one that can make men into gods. Where is Odysseus?" And the man says, "In front of you. I am one of his many eyes." Without getting any more information, Slade shoots the man. Elsewhere though, a man walks through a crowd of Odysseus' followers, and a hooded woman tells him Deathstroke still lives. The man tells her not to worry, Lady Shiva. He will find his old drinking buddy, and Bronze Tiger will tear his throat out. After escaping, Slade sits wondering about what happened back then, during that mission, and he decides to drink the truth serum that's left. He then tells himself, accepting a drink from a stranger, I've done riskier things. Everything around Slade begins to change, and then he sees himself killing some of Odysseus' men. Next, he runs into a cave shouting that he is coming for him, his son, Jericho. Jericho tells him to just leave. Anyone that gets close to him has died, and Slade tells him, I won't. And Jericho then asks, what's the matter with you? You left your family behind. So Slade tells him, I left for your own good, you and your sister Rose. The vision goes on with him breaking Jericho out and killing more of Odysseus' men. They begin to try and recapture Jericho, but a green light begins shining on them. All of the men's heads then begin to explode. The two continue until they find a man, Odysseus himself. And Jericho says that that's the man that they have been making him help by taking his life force and bringing him back from the dead. Odysseus then tells him to come closer, his children. Let us discuss the power generated by the three of us. Slade tells him, no thanks. I'm not sure how you got the hell out, but... And Odysseus interrupts him, stating, my poor, misguided son. Slade shoots Odysseus, and Jericho says, he did it! After all of these years, he did something for him, even killing his own father. And even still, that won't change things between them. He's not leaving here with him. He has his own plans. Goodbye, Dad. And then the green light begins to shine again. Slade starts to wake back up in one of his safe houses to gather supplies, and as he goes outside to call for help, the phone is shot out of his hand. A voice tells him that only one other guy in the world besides him knew about that shack, and he ain't it. Slade looks back, stating that it looks like neither of them recognize each other. Tiggs. Tiggs says, it's Bronze Tiger. No one calls me Tiggs. The two draw their weapons and they lunge at each other, and they hit each other back and forth until Slade pins Tiggs down, ready to punch down on his head. Red Fury's voice then tells him to go easy on him. He's on their side. You just don't remember Deathstroke. A little while later, Red Fury explains that the visions he saw did happen, and it was in fact his father, Charles Henry Wilson, who was the Odysseus character. The modifications that were done to his genetic structure, Odysseus is the source of those mutations. Red Fury then goes on to state that his sources now state that Jericho has turned up in Gotham 2 days ago, so after they are done debriefing their friend Bronze Tiger, he'll arrange for them to leave. Over in Gotham City, a phone rings as someone is being beaten to death with a baseball bat. After finally killing him, Harley answers the phone stating, hello, Amanda. I'm just finishing things up with a child killer. And as the conversation goes on, she says, why is that SOB coming to Gotham? I'm gonna rip his head off. He sold us out to the Russians, and no one betrays me or the Suicide Squad. And that wraps up the first part of our Deathstroke storyline. Now, part 2. Is Deathstroke versus Batman. So you can see why I wanted to make that its own video, so that we can have a much awesomer fight. Now, if you're wondering about Harley Quinn and what she mentioned about him selling him out to the Russians, go watch our first Suicide Squad video, because that's where he did that. I'll leave a link to that down below so you guys can enjoy that. And don't forget, if you want more Deathstroke and you want this channel to survive through all of YouTube's changes, please give the video a like. On that note, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys later right here.